now captivating. And this month we're deep into our theme, So Bad, So Good, celebrating the movies that might not work the way they're supposed to, but still manage to leave a lasting impression. And this week we're summoning something truly bizarre with 1975's satanic horror film, The Devil's Reign, directed by Robert Faust. The Devil's Reign is the kind of movie that feels like a fever dream of occult imagery, strange performances, and absolutely wild creative choices featuring a cast that includes William Shatner and Ernest Borgnine. The film dives headfirst into a story of satanic cults, cursed bloodlines, and apocalyptic rituals, and somehow keeps getting stranger as it goes on. It's messy, it's over the top, and at times it barely feels like it's following its own rules, but that's exactly where its cult appeal comes from. This is a movie that doesn't just flirt with So Bad, It's Good, it's practically melts into it. We'll be taking and talking about what works, what absolutely doesn't, and why The Devil's Reign has stuck around as one of the most fascinating oddities in 70s horror. So light the candles, draw the circle, and prepare for something completely unhinged. This is the First Last podcast, and So Bad, So Good continues with The Devil's Reign.
Excellent, excellent intro, Tom. You routinely ring the bell on that way better than I ever could, and I appreciate your graciousness about it. But with that being
All
said,
right.
Tom, that was a hell of an intro. We are going to go into one hell of a train wreck, a car
Lots of
wreck,
devil's horns.
a plane crash. All the above. Starting now. But first, we got to pay the bills and. Working on progress. If you have commentary on the style or design of our website, please feel free to let us know. Tom and I, it's okay. But you can always find us at firstlastnerdum.com. No matter what state of construction you will find it in, always open and available on at First Last Nerdum on our website, or excuse me, on our YouTube channel. That's really where home base is, where you can find all of our works as we continue to improve upon this thing. And we have a staple of three shows. We have our First Last Pod, our First Last Podcast, our Binge Worthy show, which has been absolutely fun for me and Tom. I know that is just a wonderful opportunity to dip into like just so many. The small screen is exploding as we have attested to. We've covered quite a number, and of course, our twice a month or so. Flipping the pages where we dive into the written media, comic book, graphic novel, that sort of thing, even a book. Really excited because Tom and I have been talking about some really cool books and other things coming up the rest of the year. But that I'm going to throw it back over to Tom, and he's gonna talk about something called Reddit. I don't know what that is, but he'll tell us what it is.
Yeah, it's a dark dungeon of demon crawlers. No, it's yeah. I go through different subreddits and try to promote herself on relevant subreddits. I just found one for devs, and I promoted our little video on the show devs for binge-worthy. But yeah, you'll find me there under First Last Nerdum on Reddit. I'm also on X promoting your stuff there under First Last Nerdum as well under X. And then Mike, you have some socials too.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. I was asleep at the wheel. Sorry. Yeah, that's Tom's X. Yeah, I too am also on X at King Jewish underscore, where you can find me and Tom. And this brings us to this week's third installment in our So Bad So Good month. You had told me about this. You kind of prep work a little bit. For the most part, we keep these pretty close and tight to the timeline that we're going to be doing them in the month, and we do have a good amount of ones that don't quite make the list. And when Tom brought this to my attention a few weeks ago, it was so crazy, so bizarre. We had to do it. So and somehow we figured out a way to do it, or Tom did. But really excited. This thing is how best to put it? It's a supernatural horror, very much in the exploitation genre of filming that we saw in the 70s. occult for the occult for this, for to be specific. But we have this. You teed it up pretty good. I put this on, and I gotta say, I didn't understand some things, but boy, it was fun to watch. It was fun getting there, especially the first opening scene there with Shatner. I'm gonna pause there and see, because we could go in so many different directions with such a cast. It's such a unique movie.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with this, and then I was going through Tubi trying to look at different movies to watch, and I saw Devil's Reign, and I was like, okay, and I threw it on, and I was watching the credits. I was like, wait, William Shatner? Wait, Eddie Arnold? Oh, wait, Ernest Borgnine, John Travolta. What's going on here? Tom Skerritt, and then the thing that really got me was the technical advisor, Anton LaVey, the high priest of the Satanic Church, actually put a seal of approval on this. I gotta see this. So yeah, it's one of those movies that just you're kind of just in awe that it even happened. With all these different actors, and yeah, it's almost like you threw a bunch of actors in Chat GPT or something to come up with a movie. It doesn't even almost seem real.
Yeah, you get this idea, this perfect platonic idea, or a concept of so bad it's good that we're introducing, and it's staggeringly overqualified cast. You got Borgnine, you got Shatner, you got everyone. An insane premise. Then you have just rock bottom execution, depending upon who your name was and what scene it was. But surprisingly legitimate, good practical effects, especially toward the end, and then it just kind of has this wafting of cult appeal.
Yeah, and it was the director. I listened to the director's commentary. I did get the very nice 4K. That's it's crazy in 2026. It's a time where certain classic movies aren't on 4K, but you could definitely get Devil's Reign on 4K. So
Absolutely.
that's a wonderful thing. It's got 2 commentary tracks on it, and a bunch of interesting interviews, both archival and new as of the Blu-ray that they did in 2017. So I don't think there's anything specifically new for the 4K. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, it's from our friends at Severin, but it has that really cool cover there, and you got the whole list of extras. But yeah, so I watched it on Tubi, and then I was like, okay, yeah, I think it's worth having on physical media. So I quickly grabbed it up. But yeah, the director said that he thought they had 8 weeks to film it. Turns out they had 5. So it was sort of like a by the seat of your pants. So the story, it's kind of confusing, maybe a lot of confusing. Yeah. The devil in the form of Ernest Borgnine is looking for the family's book. There's a book that he needs, and the satanic leader. And so in the William Shatner's father melts in front of both him and his mother. His mother disappears, and so he decides to go off to this sort of I guess it was kind of a ghost town, a church in this ghost town, to confront these cultists, and yeah, things get crazy from there. Tom Skerritt, William Shatner's brother in the movie, shows up once Shatner disappears. But yeah, you got Shatner maybe on that borderline of overacting a little bit. You got Ernest Borgnine that's always solid, but normally he's the good guy in something. This he's like the head of the cult, satanic cult, and he does a pretty good job. I have to say.
Yeah, the first part is pretty clear. It's overacting. It's a clinic on overacting by Shatner. Sorry. Yeah. Then you have the middle act, which is I still don't know what's going on there, but that we had Skerritt and Albert playing it straight. And that's another thing too, is the people who take this movie seriously, if they didn't take it seriously, this would not have worked. Like as we're presenting it, it would have just fallen off the rails and just would have been a disaster, with no redeeming value or nothing to mention. It was just been a bad just a bad movie. But that middle part is it took a minute. It was a slog for me.
A little bit.
That
Yep.
was yeah, it was probably the worst part of it. But if there is a worst part, I guess. But and even then, you can kind of get a little bit, and then to what you were saying, Anton LaVey, he famously he guided some of the scenes that they did. So you have this, not made up hokey pokey kind of thing, but you have this kind of very serious take on the practical effects and the setting and this of the scenes, which feeds into you kind of buying it. I mean, it's a slow walk, but I just don't know where up or down with it. I mean, it's just such an interesting movie. It's definitely one I gotta go back and watch again, maybe a few times. Like not right when you see it, but like over time, and you can kind of pick up other things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and like you
man.
said with Anton LaVey, yeah, he made sure all the rituals were true to life. So like,
Well staged ones, yeah, well staged
yeah,
ones.
yeah, and he's actually he's in the movie. Him and his wife or partner at the time are both in the movie. You'll see him with this like gold helmet on behind Ernest Borgnine in one of the scenes, But yeah, the chanting and all that. Actually, they filmed it in Mexico, and so some of the extras were Mexican. So he had to write out the chanting on big cue cards for him. So and did it out phonetically. So there's kind of a slow chant, but it's because they're not English wasn't the first language, so they're like chanting and yeah. So
Make this noise. Make that noise. Now put them together.
yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of interviews on the disc, and there's like Tom Skerritt. They interview him, and he said that he actually did kind of talk to the director and was say, "Hey, instead of playing the straight, we could play this for comedy as well." And he did try. Him and the director did try to kind of ham it up in some of the scenes. But then when the producers got it, they were like, "Hey, what's going on? Cut that out. We want this straight." And Tom Skerritt didn't even know Anton LaVey was on the set. They mentioned that in the interview that Anton LaVey was there. And he's like, "Who's Anton LaVey?" And they go, "Oh, he's the head of the Satanic Church." And he started laughing his head off, and I was like, "Oh wow!" Because I probably met him, I just don't remember that at all. So, but it's kind of interesting the different people's perspective of what went on. I think one of the funniest is the with the special effects guys. He was talking about how they did like the melting people, but he
Right.
also kind of ran through the different people that's in the movie. At one point, Eddie Albert, who's from Green Acres, was like, "How in the hell am I in this movie? What's going on?" And the special effects guy goes, "Yeah, it's kind of a step down from Green Acres." And Eddie Albert was like, "Shut up!"
Right.
And he said that William Shatner. He said no one loves William Shatner as much as William Shatner does.
Yeah. Well, actually, that breaks cover. That helps us break cover to kind of go into like one of the things that I wanted to discuss with you over this was like, how did the cast end up here in the question? And for Shatner as just kind of example, because I did, Star Trek was canceled the original series was canceled in 1969. And then you had 1979, which was the Star Trek, the motion picture. So you have him in the middle prime of his wilderness years, full of
Yeah.
B movies and convention appearances, which would absolutely feed him for the next, forever. And he's still alive. He's in his 90s. He's still kicking.
Yep.
But his performance is right on. It's maximum Shatner. I mean, there's sweating, screaming, his eyes bulging. His exit literally
Yeah.
melting before your eyes.
Yeah, and there is an interview with him on this from 1975
Yeah.
when he was, I guess, promoting it, and it's like a 4 minute interview, so nothing too big. But yeah, there's actually a lot of interesting things he says in it, because the interviewer does ask him about, hey, there's talks of Star Trek, and he's like, yeah. He goes, no, yeah. There's been a lot of talk about it. I haven't seen any. There's no contracts in front of me, so I don't know how serious it is. And he's like, and then I'm getting to do all these different things, these TV projects and movies and whatnot. He goes, I don't know if becoming Captain Kirk again would be a step back or a step forwards, because I'm getting to do all these interesting things like Devil's Reign. So yeah, he was sort of kind of weighing his options at that point. But I'm sure, yeah, they actually, I think there was a sci-fi con during Devil's Reign, so he had to step away for a few days so he could do his con. And they did say that since they were filming in Mexico, a lot of the Mexicans didn't know Star Trek or anything, and they said that people they were actually freaking out over Anton LaVey. When the head of the Satanic Church shows up, that kind of, in a Catholic country, that kind of ruffles some feathers. So there were much more a buzz about that, and William Shatner wasn't used to being secondary in the limelight, so he was a bit miffed. They said about that.
That's funny. Well, that explains Shatner. I didn't I didn't quite get any background, or I didn't want to dig too far into it for the sake of having our conversation. One moment.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess it was mainly for the money. I know Tom Skerritt, that's one of his first roles. So yeah, he basically said that it seemed like a piece of trash movie, but to him, but it was experience. So he was actually in the interview. He pretty much, I don't think he'd seen Devil's Reign since it was filmed like in 2017. So he's much more talking about his later works and bigger movies. I got to work with Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts and blah blah blah. So it's kind of downplaying Devil's Reign, but I think probably most of the people did it for the money.
Oh yeah, well I have no doubt. Well, I mean, you essentially have like. I don't want to call it the slow part of the 70s for movies because I didn't live it and I have no idea if that's true or not. But I do know that in between, Shatner is kind of the perfect case example for why this movie came to be and when and how. In his case, which I just talked about, one thing ended, the next thing isn't going to begin until who knows when. He doesn't know. And then you have Borgnine, who won an Oscar 20 years before this. Well, I mean, he is Hollywood. He's practically Mr. Hollywood when he walks around. But you kind of have to wonder what the draw was because he plays a unique thing because he had to sit through. I have no idea how many hours of makeup, but he had that goat face prosthetic.
Yeah, Borgnine. And that was heavy at the time. There wasn't like
oh god,
light. Yeah,
I couldn't imagine. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna fix the. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, cool.
Yeah, they said it took about 3 hours to get the makeup set up for him.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. With Scared is the same thing with the same story as Shatner. This is 4 years before he was the captain in Alien, and then you have Travolta, who I pulled this up here because it's disingenuous here. They don't even talk about Tom Skerritt, but they have Travolta here, and Travolta really he's in the movie, but he was
he's kind of a glorified extra.
Yeah. He's like in a cloak, and you barely miss it if you even can see, if you're paying attention, and then but. In 2 years from 75 to he would just become the biggest star on earth, and then start that.
Yeah, I think while he was filming it, he found out he was on Welcome Back, Kotter, got the role.
That's
Welcome Back, Kotter. So, yeah, they said that someone was saying that he was complaining on the set that, what am I doing? I'm in a movie where my eyes are blacked out, and my career's over before it started. But evidently, he liked hanging out with Anton LaVey. They hit it off pretty good, and Travolta, he was. This is his first movie. He'd done, I think, TV before, but this is his first official movie. So he was excited, and he was talking to everybody. There was an interview with the script writer or script supervisor, and she said that was her first movie too. But they mainly hired her because they were going to Mexico and she spoke Spanish. So they kind of hired her sight unseen just because she could speak Spanish. And she really didn't know what she was doing. And she goes, when Travolta was quizzing her about what she did, she's like, I kind of was trying to make myself look more. Learned than I actually was, and then she goes, then I found it was his first movie too, so we were kind of blind leading the blind. But she said that, he hit it off with Anton LaVey, and they became good friends. And I think Travolta was interested in Anton LaVey because Anton LaVey knew Marilyn Monroe, and I guess at that time Travolta was obsessed with Marilyn Monroe. And Anton LaVey said that Travolta did an impression of Marilyn Monroe, and that most people who do kind of impressions of her just kind of do the surface level, but he knew that he kind of got into Marilyn Monroe's soul because he really became Marilyn Monroe when he did his impression, and that he really knew Marilyn. So they kind of bonded over that, and I think he turned 21 on the movie set, and Anton LaVey did a little ritual specifically for his birthday, a special ritual to bless him for the future. So, and maybe Travolta has his career maybe Satan had a little role in that. I don't know.
That's funny. Yeah. The theory with all these strange people, or not strange, but famous people in this strange movie, I should say, had it backwards. The theory that I read was that Sandy Howard's entire business model was just to get all these amazing recognizable names into a cheap picture.
Yeah.
The cast is the marketing. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but Anton LaVey was a factor as a technical advisor on their
and they got him specifically for name recognition, and you guys see the satanic movie, Anton LaVey, you have
the star power, and then you have the controversial figure, and then you have seats, or presumably you would have more than average amount of people that would go see your film.
And he knew the director. They did another movie previously. He was an advisor on another movie, so they had a good friendship. So evidently Anton LaVey was sort of a popular guy on the set, and he had a good time. On the disc, there's a lot of pictures of him hanging out and just having a good time. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting movie. I think he said that he didn't mind doing the movie because spoiler alert, the devil wins at the end. So that was sort of a draw for Anton. Although there's kind of conflicting things, because there's an interview with the lady who I guess was with Anton LaVey, and she wrote his biography, and she's a member of the church. And then there's like the current, as of the recording of the interview, the current high priest, and then another person in the church kind of telling what they thought happened on the set. But the two different interviews are kind of they said different things. Like one said that the biographer said that he really loved the movie and really enjoyed being on it and all this, and the other interview was like, oh yeah, he kind of knew it was crap, but he was got to spread the message of the satanic church, and that was the big thing for him on that. But so there's kind of like a mix kind of thing, since and you don't really have from the horse's mouth, so to speak. But
Right.
but yeah,
Yeah,
it's a quick movie. It's only an hour and 26 minutes, I think.
you're right.
And
Yeah.
it kind of hits you hard and fast. There is kind of
It,
that slog during the middle, but it does actually
yeah.
go pretty quick, though.
Yeah, it does. It does go for longer than it probably should, but it does make up the middle of the film. And without that, I mean, you pretty much have two bookends of a movie, like where you're watching something fantastical and something you have to see to believe, that keeps going on and on and on and on.
Yeah, and
Like,
they did say that there was a little bit of a pressure on the movie, because evidently part of the money, or all the money, was coming from the mob. So you had a guy named
oh,
Vinny there. Vinny
oh,
there
that's
was
funny.
always there, and if you had a question about the money, you could talk to Vinny. so,
That's funny.
so,
Yeah,
yeah,
I was gonna say too.
he'd make things happen.
Yeah, to kind of swing it in focus to kind of like the sex appeal for this movie, or why it was, may have been, um, at least curiosity piquing for sure, would have been the fact that it's a couple years before, you had The Exorcist, which made $450 million. So you had the entire horror industry, much like it does today, depending upon what the concept is, like pivoted to the satanic content thing. Do you think that it was? Do you think that? I guess where would you? There did you? Well, let me back up here and reword this. So you have a history of watching some of these. I mean, I know you were really little in that era, but as you grew up and you got to know that period of horror, or when you started to really meld with horror, did you watch it? Did any film from like say 1973 to 77, like that kind of, I just roughly call that the satanic thing part, that would be tied to this movie, but you had watched back then, or that era, or maybe that thing at all, or is that maybe too much of a specific reach?
Yeah, no, I I didn't really get into horror until high school. So a lot of
Okay,
the
right on.
'70s
Right,
movies, I went back, and you have
right,
to go back and watch The Exorcist. But a lot of the '70s ones, I'm kind of have a blind spot on. So, like I said, I had never seen this movie, and
right,
so evidently, I guess it was
yeah,
in and out of the theaters pretty quick. That it didn't really land. It was on. I think they said Roger Ebert's top 10 worst movies list.
yeah.
So he evidently really didn't like it. And talk about sex appeal, you do get a bare chested Shatner. So, you do get that.
You do, yeah. You do.
with him screaming.
Oh God, yeah. Well, he's like I said, he was. That you do have a slower part in the middle, but as you roll and wrap up into like where the bad guy wins, there. Well, actually, I was going to say too, with Anton LaVey being the technical advisor, they also did a Thomas Burnman's methacellulose through prosthetics technique, um, uh, was what they used. And what we're talking about is this famous, this the final scene, like where you just you have this scene that you think it's gonna stop, but it keeps going and going and going. And there's smoke, and anyway, it's pretty cool, pretty cool thing, and you just kind of like, and then you just go with it. And
Yeah, the director says, especially towards the end, he said that the melting people was went a little too long for him. He felt like they could have wrapped that up pretty quick. He goes, yeah, well, with the commentary at one point, like it's still going on. He goes, yeah, most people should be out in their car by now, but no, they're still watching this movie because the people are still melting. But there is like a really cool little device they have. There's like a horned chalice or something. This horned trophy that has like a television built into it that shows the souls that the devil has possession of. And a lot of the interviews talked about Ada Lupino, being in the movie. Evidently, she was a big deal back in the day. Although I guess her influence isn't really known to me. Evidently, she's an actress, but also a director and writer as well.
Yeah, that's I also had read that she was a pioneering Hollywood director, a female director, and that she has a bit part in this. So it is what it is. But not every movie's going to have everybody in it equally.
Right.
Yeah, I would be curious to go back and check up on her being a director. It would be curious to see what she's directed and see if there's any. I'm sure there's a material that we could that we would be able to cover.
She evidently focused on counterculture, and Anton LaVey was very much interested in her because of her work
Cult,
as a
right.
director. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of they filmed it in Durango, and there's that whole ghost town that they shot in is pretty much a character in and of itself as well.
Sure.
Yeah, it's kind of got that kind of desolate kind of look, and so it does. There's a lot of cool scenes, with all of them in the robes around Shatner, and the
Makes it
whole
even
blacked
more
out.
eerie.
Yeah, the whole blacked out eye thing. As long as they didn't do too much of a close up, it does look pretty convincing.
Eerie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
No,
weird, and yeah.
it sets the fundamentals for the spookiness and the just the sense of alienness that they're trying to convey to you. That these
Mm-hmm.
people are not. They look human, and you think they're human, but they're under something else is going on that in plain sight, which makes it even scarier in some ways. But in Ernest Borgnine, I mean, you can't. He's just so iconic. Geez, and the part where he turns or he morphs into more of the goat. I mean, it's just unsettling. There was I saw a thing that it was a title. I thought I might have. Yep, that was it. That's trying to see the thing.
Yeah, the kind of the phases of
Yeah, this disgusting faces of the
yeah, and the title Devil's Reign. I always I'm not sure if
I
you
get
were
that.
big into internet culture and memes in the early 2010s, but there was that one guy who had that big song on the internet, Chocolate Rain. Chocolate
Oh, yeah.
Rain. I always when I hear Devil's Rain, I always sing it in that tone. Devil's Rain.
I remember him. Yeah, he was the first, one of the first big YouTube things that people collectively remember. If you're old like me and Tom. Okay, Grandpa, let's get you into bed. Let's get you into that nap. Yeah, I just was going to say, this is kind of funny because there's a recurring pattern on a lot of these films that are essentially bad films. That are relegated to the dustbin of history. But with them, sometimes you'll find ones like this where they do take the technical practical effects very seriously, and for a movie like this, I have no idea what the budget was. I'm sure we'll get into that maybe, or if there's not really much to get into, to be honest. But it's really good. I mean, considering what you're getting, and they're not kidding. It is a hell of an ending. It is. You're not going to see another movie like this. But for how long they took on it and how serious they took it, especially with instead of the satanic thing being a dumb plot device or whatever, they really weaving in some seriousness with it. It makes it more compelling and more interesting than just little Hollywood things like the black eyes. Just make things even spookier. Set that edge of alienness is good too.
Yeah,
But
there's that sense of a fever dream. There's a flashback scene where the Tom Skerritt's girlfriend or wife is has kind of psychic abilities, and so she's there during the flashback, just sitting with the regular colos, just watching the thing go down, and so that's kind of an interesting take on a flashback, and it's just kind of it's it is pretty goofy, but like you said, it takes things way serious, so it gives it sort of a eerie vibe to it, and it kind of makes it more of a fever dream than a something kind of goofy. It is worth maybe watching with a few friends, and and having some fun with who shows up in it, but it doesn't have like really laugh out loud lines in it or anything. It's more of a, and also the ending, the twist, sort of somewhat twist ending, and it is actually quite effective. I like that the scene with the credits rolling over it. They do. Even though it's a cheaply made movie, all the money's up there on the screen. They cheaply maybe made they made it effective. Like I said, that little trophy thing with the souls in it. I'm sure it was pretty cheaply to set up, but it was very effective in its look and what they used it for in the movie. It just kind of. And also like the special effects of the horns on Ernest Borgnine, that could have come off as pretty goofy, but it's actually quite effective and really interesting looking.
Well, that's why I say that there's a level of seriousness there that you wouldn't expect for this, like where you'll see. I felt like because of the algorithm and everything else, like now YouTube is feeding me these clips, these S-Big clips, and I'm like, what the hell is S-Big? So bad it's good. So it's the same thing that anyway, whatever, YouTube, thanks for being creepy, but yeah, Borgnine, who he's there's no irony to his acting. He doesn't wink or nod at the film. He's completely sincere with the absurd material that he's a 300-year-old goat priest, satanic style. You got the goat face, which because he takes it so seriously, he's genuinely, you take him as not to be messed with. And then you have Shatner doing Shatner's thing, which we already covered. But Tom Skerritt, we didn't really talk about him. He almost gives it. I found myself kind of chuckling at parts that were maybe not supposed to be funny, but he plays. Essentially, this is just a thriller. There's something's afoot. We're in it. What's going on? We'll see it. Maybe that kind of thing. Like we were already going off, but he plays. He's such a ridiculous situation, and he's reasonable. He's just like, oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, not quite like that, but I'm overhyping it a little bit. But you also had this, and then we didn't really talk about it, but you had Eddie Albert too. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for me to not think of Green Acres, because when I grew up, Nick at Night was on, and you see Green Acres, all these reruns and stuff. So it's hard to see him, and then you're thinking Green, that. Mm-hmm. But he did a good job. He gives you good exposition, nothing more than you don't, not too much. He's economical with it, I'd say. He kind of sets the table for what we're getting into. I don't know. I can see, and I do want to go back and see Ida Lupino. I need to go because I don't know anything about her. Yep. And I'm curious, but
yeah. And then you got Keenan Ween as the sheriff. He's one of those actors that you maybe don't know his name, but when you see him, you go, "Oh, that guy," But yeah, he's the sheriff. He's too busy. He can't go to the ghost town with Tom Skerritt, so he's like, "You're on your own." So there's like a quick scene of him, just letting him know, "Hey, you're on your own. You can go looking." But yeah, I'm not gonna help you out there. But yeah, there's it's just a fun, interesting movie that I had no idea that it existed, and but yeah, it's worth definitely checking out. maybe get some popcorn and just kind of enjoy yourself. Like I said, it's only an hour and a half that it keeps the pace is pretty interesting. They they did say that there's like I said, there's commentary with the director and a host, where the host was more interested in the director's other work. So that commentary is not the best in the world, because he's talking about all of his other movies outside this one. But they do say Ernest Borgnine had decided after this movie he wasn't going to do any other satanic movies because of the weird stuff that happened on the set. And and the director was like, he goes, I didn't know that. And what happened? Yeah, weird stuff. So that's kind of interesting, because everybody had their own sort of like perspective of the movie, and it's so different from each person's recollection. And in fact, a couple of people, and then there's an article written about the movie, about the director having a nervous breakdown during the filming of it, and really? the host asked the director about it, and the director said, I didn't have a nervous breakdown. I don't know where that comes from. so there's a lot of weird stuff about this movie, that conflicting accounts, and maybe he had a nervous breakdown, maybe he didn't. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
well, that's funny, because and we covered this a couple years ago, but we covered Rosemary's Baby, which is what I think that's what this movie aspires to be. It isn't, but that's the gold standard that goes in, and we have this unique creation where it takes itself seriously. It is definitely so bad it's good. Maybe the king of so bad it's good films would be the Room, with that Mark what's his name? Oh, good God. Tommy
Wiseau.
Yeah. That's like that's like a benchmark for if in this unique category. But I thought the Visitor that we saw last week, that I thought that had sustained weirdness throughout, and it's not like this doesn't, but that middle part really does. It is what it is. It can be rough. It's not so rough that you want to exit, but it does beg you to stay a little bit longer. And again, like Tom said, it's not, the movie isn't that way, not so bad, but you have this bookend of this phenomenal Shatner. I mean, just burst out the gate with it. And then you have the you go through the flat part, and then it builds up, and then you get to this fantastic ending. So it's, I would call it like bookended, so bad it's good. And then of course we had to cover the Nude Vampire, which is just its own. It's in its own category, just like I think The Visitor is in its own category. Whereas I think that this one is a little bit more. It has its value for sure. But anyway, I'm rambling. But I'll throw it back to you to see what your thoughts are. For like, do you agree that this is like kind of wanting to be Rosemary's Baby or something like it, or at least
there's definitely something in the water during that time about Satan and exorcism and different things, all that evilness lurking around. But yeah, it's sort of its own thing, though, like you said. Although The Visitor and Devil's Reign would make for an interesting double feature if you wanted to tackle both.
I agree with that.
Both are relatively not too long movies, so you could probably do that all in one night. But yeah, kind of an interesting take on good and evil. Depending on how you want things to win out, you might want to pick one or the other to begin with. But but yeah, two different takes on good and evil, Satan, and one has Space Jesus, and the other has Shatner. So I don't know which wins out there. but no, it's a fun movie. It kind of plays to its strengths. So they knew they had Shatner, and they used him all they could. Ernest Borgnine, he plays it to a T. Tom Skerritt is like I said, always good. But yeah, it's a fun movie that has good acting. It has some really good special effects for the bunny that they had to do it. The story is very confusing and doesn't make a complete sense, but overall it does have a, you can follow the story at least, and once you start to in your head start to ask questions, a big action scene happens and you forget about it. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a definitely a fun movie.
Yeah, I'd say for the films that that we have covered in this series, I'd say it's within it's middle of the road within the genre that we're defining. So bad, it's good. It's in the time and place it was at. It had the satanic thing going on. It's in the DNA there, but it does take it in a unique way, and it didn't quite break out at that time, but it didn't disappear either. And I think that we kind of covered the big three, really. I mean, you had the cast, you had the melting effects, which is legendary, and then you had LeVay. And then which one of those that you were showing up for, you would be happily entertained by the other two, depending upon what your number one was to go to two and three. But it does work. It is a brilliant 20 minutes of Shatner, and then, like I said, the last 15. You're seated right there, and it is worth the price of admission to go through that middle part of the film, and build that tissue up. And although I still don't, I mean, I'm sure there's a logic there, but I still don't quite. I still don't quite get A to Z, but that's okay.
Yeah, if you're going into it looking for Travolta, though, you might want to skip this one.
Yeah, no, this is more of a trivia question than a serious.
Right. Yeah, if he hadn't gone on to do what he did, it would have been worth mentioning him. But yeah, it's definitely interesting movie. It has a definite style to it. The church is quite interesting. I think LeVay had a hand in the design of the church, so it does ring kind of authentic. I think that's another thing. I guess it paid to have Anton there because he gave it a bit of a legitimacy, and the whole satanic stuff isn't overplayed. It's not underplayed. It's not camp. It's just a very eerie and very very on the nose. It makes sense for this world, and you kind of believe in it. Like I said, if it had become kind of like a camp movie, you wouldn't have bought what was going on. And that poster is just really nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I was just saying, some of these are really, really great. I mean, just classic. I don't know about the movie necessarily, but yeah. Although the movie is fine, the movie's fine, but you just can't. This is like one of those, at least to see the first 20 and the last 15 or whatever your last 10, whatever it ends up being, to kind of see that. Yeah, I think it's worth it to watch the entire thing. But some people might disagree and say, just watch this and that. You're probably in and out. But this one would be one that you would want to. Is probably it's just so interesting with who's in it, and you want to see, really, and they did what? Okay, I got to see that. Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say, I think we're kind of coming up to the caboose. I don't know if you had any other thoughts or if we missed anything.
Grogu, no, yeah, I think we're pretty much, kind of wrapping things up.
What the hell? How do you let me be on the movie thing and then you take the movie away and then you put me back to the home? Okay, thanks, IMDb. Well, anyway, complaining about it. Boomer. Yeah, no, this is it's really great. Great to watch if you're in that mood of you want to see so bad it's good. It's I would say it's going to be head and shoulders above like ones like where it's just campy acting and campy. This is not that at all. There is no, if it had broken that, it wouldn't work for what it does. For what does work for it, I'll put that way.
Yeah. If you're You're looking for prime grade A Shatner. You got it. You got
Yep.
prime grade A Ernest Borgnine. You got Tom Skerritt. It tells a little interesting tale. It's not something you'll see. It's not your typical movie. It tells a different story. Definitely tells a fascinating story that doesn't always make sense.
Yeah, and I will say it is creepy. It does reach a level of eeriness. It just doesn't quite pull it up like you would like it wants to, or like it wants you to react to it. But it does work in certain things. But yeah, this one was fun to watch. That was, like I said, it's just you got to. Sometimes you see a cast list and then you see the what is what. Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think I think me and Tom here are we're at the caboose, but did want to say if you could please go and subscribe to our channel if you made it this far, we would dearly appreciate it. Even
Mm-hmm.
better if you have feedback for us, bad, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, what something other than indifferent, or even if you want to complain about how generic and sterile we are, that's fine. I don't think that's true, but no, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I've been Mike.
I'm Tom, and keep it satanic out there.